This is a movie review 2019's Ford versus Ferrari, directed by James Mangold. The script was written by Jason Keller and John Henry Butterworth. The cast: in the lead roles, Matt Damon plays Carroll Shelby. He's a NASCAR driver was forced to retire early from racing following the findings by a doctor that he had a problem with his heart, the rhythm of his heart, and he was advised to stop racing or he was likely to die. Christian Bale plays Ken Miles, a British driver who's an absolute fanatic about mechanics of the engine under the hood and maximising the performance, and he becomes the lead driver in this movie, which is focuses on the Ford Motor Company's attempt to get a car together to challenge the domination of Ferrari at the famous Le Mans 24-hour race that takes place annually in France. Other main protagonists in this movie include Josh Lucas, who plays Leo Beebe. He's an executive working for Henry Ford II, who's obviously the chairman of Ford Motor Company, played by Tracy Letts. We have Molly Mills, who is the character of Molly Miles, who's Ken Miles' wife, played affectionately by Catriona Balfe. And then there's Ken's son, Peter, played by Noah Jupe, and his developing interest in motor cars and motorsport. So basically, this is a movie about motor racing. It's takes a pretty slow start, really, to get going, and we initially get passages amidst the film in the early stages where the possibility of Ford putting together a car to challenge the winning combination at Ferrari is debated to a considerable extent, as Ford gained the employment of the very famous NASCAR driver who played by Matt Damon, Carroll Shelby. He has a reputation and is regarded was regarded as one of the greatest drivers of all time. The two lead actors deliver 5-star performances here, and there's some scenes that sort of encapsulate really the strength of the script to some extent. Where early on we see Bale as Ken Miles get completely infuriated with a sports car, and he goes to a meet, and there are difficulties he encounters which prevent him from competing, and he has a real epic fit and smashes a hammer on towards the boot of the sports car. We also witness some very extensive dramatic descriptions, particularly for Shelby, who was a winner of the Le Mans 24-hour race, and when he's initially contacted by Ford, by Lucas, with the idea to overcome Ferrari's dominance, he describes in vivid detail what it would take to actually get a car that's capable of winning, and then get a driver who's a series of drivers, of course, there were 3 drivers in the 24-hour race for a team, a team of drivers that are capable of handling the severe conditions of winning that race. And he points out in vivid detail the difference between winning that particular race and winning a NASCAR event where you just go round an oval track. And the vivid description encapsulates really the whole essence of the task at hand. There are also some interesting discussions, mini arguments, differences of opinion between Miles and Shelby, and they do develop a close bond as the film progresses, but it didn't start out quite that way. The contrast between the American and the Brit is illustrated very clearly, and latterly, when Shelby is on board totally with the idea that Ken Miles is the only person who's really going to be able to drive the car and get that car to the winning post, he experiences stiff resistance from the board at Ford Motor Company, who basically want to keep it as an American success story and are rather reluctant for a Brit to jump on board. They are sort of counting their chickens before they hatched, and we have a series of confrontations between the board and Damon's character Shelby. The chemistry between Damon and Bale, I must point out again, it really does make this movie a worthwhile watch. It's pretty slow in the first 2/3. The final third, however, is where we get the footage of the actual racing, and this is absolutely fantastic. You really get a bird's eye view of what it must have been like to be involved in a 24-hour endurance race with conditions that include driving at night, driving in weather that's absolutely abysmal, and also the spectacular spills, accidents, and also a number of cars that were caught on fire as a result of overturning. So you get a really good glimpse, but the problem is that on a small laptop computer you can't recreate the atmosphere and the energy. So I really would suggest that if you're interested in this style of action movie, you really ought to have a look at it on a big cinema screen. Having said all that, for anybody that has any sort of insight into the thrills and spills of motor racing, then this is right up your street. And as the race unfolds and the determination and ability of Ken Miles becomes apparent in his determination to get the maximum out of the car, you get a feeling of the buzz and the in the zone experience that it must be for a racing driver, using the car to the absolute maximum performance, but at the same time aware that at any moment the vehicle could break down. And I think the movie highlights this, and a nod to the director James Mangold for putting it all together. So I did enjoy this movie, although it took some time to get there, but you have a look at it. It's also been called Le Mans 66. That was the year that this race happened, and I won't plot spoil it, but basically it's Ford versus Ferrari, or the alternative name for the movie, Le Mans 1966. The one thing that I did remember as the film unfolded and at the start of the race, having seen and witnessed the starting of this race when I was a young boy on TV in England, I recalled that the race began at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it started with the drivers running to their vehicles, and that was how the race started. And of course I witnessed that again in this movie, and it really did bring great memories back to how this race was seen as the pinnacle of driving performance and car performance over a 24-hour period. So that's my review.